This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Colorado. I'm here with Empire Financial. I'm here with Brian Arnold, who is preserving life, health, and stability by teaching others that stable housing and home ownership for all is one of the most important rights we have as citizens. I'm joined here with Brian.
Hey.
Thanks so much once again for sitting down with me.
Hey, love it. Can't wait to be here. This is awesome.
Let's start off a little bit about yourself. Okay. Brian, you're formally educated at multiple universities with an EDD in higher education admin. You have taught as a teacher and served many nonprofits today and in the past. You have a deep background in your community. You believe in empowering others, really, in financial literacy. Share with me why Empire was a good fit for you.
You know, one of the things that, and thank you for having me on, I do appreciate it. And, one of the things that in my bio, I got an EDD instead of a PhD. But
yes,
it's all good,
right?
ED. A doctor's the doctor, right? But, so my wife said last time, you said PhD, you didn't fix it. I'm like, okay. So I want to make sure that I correct that here. But the reason I left, in the retail market on mortgages. And so being a mortgage professional, through teaching and everything else still allows me to do it. And so, I'm working with seniors a lot. I'm working with first-time homebuyers a lot. And then when I moved over to Empire is because I had an ownership opportunity and I had the ability to do better for my clients than I was. On the retail side, sometimes, the rates are a little bit higher or you can't get the best thing because you don't have the ability to use anybody. So if I work for ABC Mortgage Company and they're a lender, then they're expecting me to write, the business through ABC Mortgage Company. When it's with, like I'm an Empire and I'm a broker, I get 91 different, lenders that I can pick from. So I can pick the best lender that's going to fit the exact situation of the clients there. So you can't beat that.
Which makes sense for you because you're always looking out for your client. Mm-hmm. You customize really the package for each one of them. Mm-hmm. That's a great choice. I mean, you've always been in the business of empowering people from first-time home buyers to reverse mortgages and really everything in between. I mean, is it safe to say not everyone's needs are the same? And with Empire, do you have, like you say, many products to meet the needs of the clients wherever they're at in their journey?
Absolutely. And I'll say not one person is the same. Not that anybody is the same. Sure. And, the banks try to make these cookie cutter scenarios and cookie cutter, loan scenarios that can work, knowing that everybody is different. So when you get, or I sit down with a, potential client, I'm sitting down and I'm finding out what is it that they need? What is it that they want? What are their goals? What are their dreams? What are their aspirations? Sometimes I get a partner with some incredible real estate agents that, the real estate agent found in this house and now we're trying to get them into this house. Or, when we come to talking about seniors, maybe they need, a great example is I had a gentleman who his wife had passed away. He's still living in the 5-bedroom house that they raised their kids from. What we did is, he was like, I can't really afford the taxes. I can't really afford this. And so what we did is we sold his house. What are you doing? How are you doing mortgage? But we bought a fourplex. We used a reverse mortgage to buy a fourplex. So now he has 3 of his buddies living right next to him. He lives in one of the units of his fourplex. Instead of not having money to do his taxes, he's charging his buddies $2,500 per unit to be in there. So now no payment for him, but he's got a $7,500 cash flow on top of his Social Security, which changes everything.
Everything. I mean, not every professional out there has the creativity you bring to the table, and you're able to put these things together in a way because you actually are listening to what they want and what they need. Let's begin, first of all, with those who are purchasing a home. Is it still the American dream to own a home? And do you enjoy assisting those first-timers out there?
Absolutely. I don't know if it's an American dream. I think it's an American must. I think when I start thinking about how we create or generate wealth in this country, the number one fastest way to do it is through home ownership. Yeah. And, it's sad sometimes, you said we're here in Colorado and I'm here in the Denver area, and I'm seeing all these apartment places go up. I'm seeing a lot of rentals going up. I'm seeing the ability for somebody to pay somebody else's mortgage. Yeah. Not realizing that in a lot of cases, I can get somebody into a home cheaper than they can get into that apartment. It might take 4 or 5 months. We have programs that I work with folks that like Vector Bank that has $1,000. So if they can come up with $1,000, they can enjoy home ownership. that doesn't have, what apartment are you going to go to? And then now it's your home, right? It's your residence. I just worked with a company that isn't even a mortgage company to me called, it's called Onify. And they're allowing like 5 months of rental, where they have fractional ownership in the home, and then they're able to buy it outright, after that 5 years. And so they have these bricks, and we have investors that can come in and invest in helping that person buy their home. There's something about home ownership that allows us the freedom to feel a different way. And I'm sure you've met people and know people and are one yourself that when I can hammer my own nail into my own wall, and I don't have to worry about
That's the number one thing I teach my kids, right there, is home ownership. And like you said, let's take it out of the column of American dream, put it into American necessity, so that it's the top of the list and you're out there pursuing that. I mean, in choosing a purchase loan product that matches your goals can be a bit overwhelming for a lot of people. Are there many options that you can offer for consumers based on each individual? Maybe if they're not ready to, maybe their credit's not perfect or everything's not in place, are you able to help them along that?
Absolutely. We put together a plan. I have a podcast called the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight Podcast. And at the end of every single show, I say, first, you can do this. You have the ability. We have the technology, like the Bionic Man, right, if you remember that show, to be able to help people figure out how to do it. The second thing I say is you deserve this. We live in this amazing country that has given us the ability to have ownership of something that we can then give on to our kids and for generations and generations. And the last part of it is, let us help you, because you don't do this every day. Most of us don't purchase a house every week, every month, not even every year. And so if you're not in the game of figuring out, okay, this product works in this way, or this person of equity, amount of equity can help us here, or this down payment assistance. There's a couple programs where somebody can get them up to $50,000 in down payment assistance. Somebody says, I don't have enough money to buy a house. I said, well, somebody's willing to give you $50,000 that you can use to get into the house. And there's programs all over, I say more now than any other time in history, that can allow somebody to get into that.
Interesting. I mean, it's amazing that you're able to put these programs together for people. There's too many moving parts for the average person out there who's not on top of it all the time.
Even for me to keep track of it sometimes.
Exactly. It's a
There's so many,
job, right?
and I have what we call them agent assistants, or AEs is what we call them. So they're at the different lenders, and I can call them and I can put a scenario in, and then they can come up with whatever the best product. The real cool about being part of Empire is I can put that scenario in, and all 90 of them have a chance to tell me if they have a product. Because I can't remember all that. There's no way. I want to help the client the best I possibly can, but there's something new coming out every single day. They have these 2-1 buy downs or 3-1 buy downs where you pay less interest rate. That's like the new thing that's happening. There's just so many different things based on rates and what people can do that you can't know it all. But if you know somebody who does know it, then that's who you go after.
I mean, you're at the helm of the ship to help them, but it takes an entire team that's behind you, and you got professionals backing you up. What about those who already have a home and maybe they're considering refinancing that home? Is this a way for them to kind of take out some cash out of their investment?
And I'm so glad you asked that, because we are in a point now where interest rates have been a little bit high. There was a clearance sale on interest rates a few years ago, right? The 2% and 3%. The clearance sale is over. I'm sorry, it's not coming back for a long time. But when we start thinking about, do people need, this is a statistic that is scary. The average amount of debt that homeowners have right now is about $97,000. $97,000 in credit card debt and consumer debt, car debt, that kind of stuff. So when we think about a home and the equity that's in a home and the ability to refinance, if you're paying, and if we look at what's happening with credit cards, those interest rates have gone through the roof. You might have got that credit card at 9%. Now it's sitting at 21%. It's sitting at 28%. And you're going, I can't afford to even make these payments. One of the things you have with equity in your house is the ability to now take some of that equity, pay those credit cards off. People say, well, if I refinance, I lose my 3% rate. Well, if I average your 3% rate with your $90,000 of credit card debt, then you're more like paying 12 or 13%. So it's better to pay 5 or 6%, on a house and pull out that cash than it is to sit on an interest rate. And there's even programs now where we can leave your interest rate where it's at, get a HELOC or a second or something like that. But you got to pay off those credit card debts. And then we really got to talk about maintenance of money and how do you manage that money so that this doesn't happen again. But inflation, right? It's been crazy. What's
not always about pulling money out, just converting some of that debt over to lower interest. You're helping people right off the bat before you even start.
Yeah.
We're all familiar out there with the need to obtain a mortgage to buy a home, but one type of mortgage that many people are not familiar with is really your specialty. That's reverse mortgages. Before you get into the details, give me kind of a layman's overview why this is a reverse mortgage.
Gotcha. Well, a reverse mortgage is, some call it a neg am loan, or they call it a loan that the principal, instead of going down, ends up going up.
Okay.
And there's a lot of good reasons for, I gave you one example of, the gentleman that we moved out of his house when he sold his house, and then we purchased the duplex, or fourplex, with a reverse mortgage because he has no payment. That is the biggest selling part. The loan actually comes due when that person has to pay that when they turn 150 years old. This is a loan that is for seniors. They have to live in the home, which is great, but it allows them to create and utilize their cash that they have in their equity to be able to live. So for some people, they're on that fixed income with Social Security. And Social Security only allows them, that $1,500, $1,600 a month. I'll give you an example with my mom. My mom, had a small balance, like $100,000 on her loan. The house is worth, almost $500,000. She wanted to, she was on a fixed income, so she's making that payment and saying, how do I, if the tree, crashes or lightning hits it or something, but I need to cut it down. I think one of them died. I have gutters that are spilling over. How do I do that? I have relatives that I need to go see. How do I do that on this fixed income? We were able to take money out of her home, out of the equity in her home. She's like, well, maybe the principal's going to go up and you and your sister aren't going to have, this house. I'm like, Mom, me and my sister are doing fine. We want you to have quality of life. You bought this house. You grew the equity in the house. This was an investment you made. Now utilize that investment. And so we were able to get her not only not to have that payment anymore, but she has like $125,000 of what we call like a line of credit that she can use for whatever she wants, whenever she needs to, and doesn't have to make a payment on it.
I mean, this is a life changer in terms of lifestyle for so many people. I think that's exciting. I mean, so the ability to manage your expenses better during retirement is a benefit, but also some great peace of mind knowing you won't have to move. You won't have to leave your home. I mean, the place that you love, is that important for a lot of folks? Oh, it is.
It is so important, and to be able to maintain that, and some people just love their houses. I just did a reverse mortgage on a couple that they've lived here in Colorado for almost 40 years. And they said, we're tired of the snow. We want to move to Arizona. So I just got back from Phoenix last week seeing their brand new house on a golf course in Phoenix. They sold their house here because they made equity in it. They took the amount of, we did a reverse for purchase, which means they only had to put about 50% down of what the house was selling for in Phoenix, because they were doing it on a reverse. So they have no payment on that new house. They got to keep some of the money that they sold in the house they have here, and now they're living their retirement dream in a retirement community in Arizona. It was 75 degrees last week when it was snowing here and they were just the happiest people that you could imagine. Brand new house. It was a new build. And they still didn't use up all their money. So it doesn't even have to be the house that you're living in right now. No. You can, my in-laws are moving here in May. They're same thing. We're going to do a reverse mortgage. We've already been looking at houses that they want and where they want it and the city they want. And they're going, wait a minute, we don't have to use all our money and put it into the house and then try to figure out how we're going to live. No, just use some of the money. They're coming from California, so they're actually coming with their retirement is done.
Talk about the best of both worlds. Yeah. Living with the home and as well as being able to do what you want to do. I do remember one thing when I first interviewed you that you talked about, and that was basically the ability to kind of be able to give that gift back to your kids while you're still alive. I literally had my dad watch your interview.
Oh, did you?
So I said, you know what, Dad, you're waiting for everybody you're going to pass away and you're going to give part of your home. Okay, that's what he worked for. He worked to really create that equity for his kids to pass on. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to be able to be alive and see some of that? and see the gift you gave. Is that something you think is possible?
Oh my gosh, it is happening so much, and I call it just the way to generational wealth. So, I think the example I said last time was, I had a lady, she was 72. She wanted to give back to her grandkids. Her kids were doing okay. What we did is we took about $180,000 out of her house. $60,000 went to making improvements, and we did a furnace, that kind of stuff. But then we took $120,000 and we split it 3 ways. So each grandkid got $40,000 towards down payments. And so we were able to get them, and she goes, if I live to 92, then I get to watch my grandkids' homes move up in equity for 20 years. What that's going to look like. Our family now has 1 or 2 homes. Our net family then is going to have 4 or 5 homes as a result of her being able to take that equity out. Now, usually you see in families where somebody will pass away, they'll go pay off their debt with it. They're not going to invest it back into the future. They're going to use that money to pay off some of their own stuff. It's amazing. I just did a loan for a lady, 105 years old. 105 years old. Her house was worth $800 and some thousand. It was paid off. She's like, I want to see my great grandkids get some homes. And so we did it. We pulled out a whole bunch of money out of her house, and she says, it's like candy, everybody Christmas, right?
Being able to see your legacy right in front of you, not just knowing that it's going to be a legacy that I leave, but you actually get to see the start of that. I think a lot of them are afraid of, basically, once they do that maybe they won't have enough money to live comfortably for themselves, or maybe don't have to end up going into a retirement home. They've got I've seen people with a ton of equity, more than they could ever probably spend, and yet they're still afraid of that. What would you tell somebody in that situation like that?
I would say let's put a plan together, because that's the ultimate, being able to tell what your money wants to do for you. What is it you want to do, and what's the legacy you want to leave? For some people it's their kids, their grandkids, their great-grandkids. For some people it's their favorite charity. It's that church that they've been wanting to invest in or help because of a new ministry that's coming out. Or it's that Boys and Girls Club, or it's homeless ministry. Whatever it is that they really wanted to be a part of. They want to see their name on a home or on a building or something like that. There's a way to kind of do some of those things with the equity.
So really it's about restructuring it, structuring that plan in a way that fits that individual. This journey to freedom has always been your passion. How has podcasts broadened your reach? Share with me a little about what you aim to teach daily on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I love that you asked that. So I have 3 different podcasts that are 3 different levels of where I can help folks. The first one that I came up with that I really wanted to do was called the Black Wealth Experience. Okay. And I really wanted to get into families of color and say, how do we get generational wealth starting to build? How do we move things? What programs are available? So I went out, I'm a lender, but I still went out to all these other lenders, that lender that gets the $1,000 down, or that lender that has the $5,000 or the $50,000. Even if I can't sell that, it's right for the client. Okay. Right? And so that is dedicated to making sure that we have seminars, that we have education, that people who are afraid to show up somewhere because they're embarrassed can watch it on their home. So that podcast, we're over 50-some episodes now in that podcast. Then I did another one I wanted to highlight the best real estate agents that are in. It's called the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight. And what I did is I got a list of real estate agents that were doing right for their clients, lists that were doing lots of transactions, that were in neighborhoods that some of the other real estates weren't in. And I said, let me interview you. Let people be able to find out who you are before they go out and decide who's going to help them find their house, what their specialty is. Like I have one that's an Airbnb specialty that's cool. That now those people who want to invest in Airbnb now have a real estate agent that knows all these different laws that change all the time. Now the third podcast, and this is just brand new, and I'm glad you're asking me about it, it's called The Journey to Freedom. In The Journey of Freedom, I went to a seminar that had over 450-something people that were in this seminar. And it was about trust and solving with trust and how important trust is in our lives and how people are gaining access by being able to trust. And there wasn't very many people of color at that seminar. And so I came back and, I had some prayer time with God, and He says, I need you to do something for black men.
The color version.
The color version of it. And so the 5 pillars that we came up with were finance, faith, identity, health, And what is the last one?
It's brand new. That's why you're talking about.
Identity, faith, finance, trust, and health. So those are the 5 things. And so we're putting together this amazing program. So I'm going to do a daily mindset. I have one right now. Just as a mindset, it's only 30 seconds. I'm going to do a 7-minute mindset. It's going to start tomorrow. If people want to, go to Journey to Freedom, just go to journeytofreedom.us, and you can be part of this mindset. We're gonna transform how we show up at places and how we trust people. We're gonna talk about money. We're gonna talk about how do we leave a legacy? How do we manage our money before we start making our money? So that when we make our money, we are able to manage it. We're gonna talk about health. When I was looking up statistics on the African American male and the stress that comes with it, that when our life expectancy is. Somebody took a ruler to me the other day, and he pulled it out. And he had me hold it. It was a tape measure. Had me hold it at 0. Then he pulled it out to 72, because that was like the life expectancy of black individuals. Then he had me hold it at 59. And I held it at 59, and he said, okay, let it go to here. And between 59 and 72, he said, that's how much time you got left if you're part of the statistic. I said, oh no, I can't be part of that statistic. I need to increase that. How am I going to do it with health? Well, what do I do? What doctors do I see? What about my heart health and my high blood pressure or my diabetes, or all those things that we don't spend enough time in our community talking. When I talked about identity, what is the identity and who we show up as? How do we trust ourselves? And so we put together just a phenomenal program. Me and a couple other folks that we just sat down and said, how are we going to make an impact in this community? We're calling it Our Best Life. When we think about we think about our whole community, and how are we going to make this whole community a better place as a result of doing this stuff.
I always say, if you want something done, ask a busy person.
Mm-hmm.
You are that busy person. I mean, Brian, for you, this is more than a job.
It is.
This is really a God-given calling to educate in podcasts and in person, helping all consumers purchase more than their American dream, but their American necessity. Mm-hmm. Is this rewarding for you?
Oh my gosh, it is. Every time, like what I was telling you last week, I'm in Phoenix, and I'm going to their home, and I did a podcast in their home, in their brand new home with those clients, and you see that reward. I did a young lady not too long ago. She grew up in the projects here in Denver. Never knew anybody in her relatives, not one that owned a home. She takes care of a disabled child. And so it took us a minute. It took us 4 or 5 months to get her to find the right house that she could afford with the right down payment assistant. But today, when I drive by her house, oh man, how rewarding is it to know that she has changed the trajectory of her family forever. That's huge. That's rewarding. That's why you do this kind of work, because it's just that important and that impactful. I wish I could help everybody and throw everybody in, but not everybody wants help, right? Now, some people are sitting in their homes right now, and hopefully they'll watch this and say, hey, I could do this. Maybe, Brian, it might take me a year. Well, you spent the last 10 years not living in a house, so living one more year not in a house that you own is okay. You occasionally get that person who has that dream house or that forever home. And you see that you're able to build from one house to the next house to the next house. That equity continues to build. Boom, now you're living in $1 million house that you never thought that would be possible in your lifetime, that you'd be able to do that.
No, any owned home is better than the biggest rented home. I mean, honestly, what it's going to give you back is incredible. Mm-hmm. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. On the website, obviously you can learn more about Brian on LinkedIn as well, mm-hmm. By tuning into his podcast. He's got 3 levels he can help you out with. If you're smart, you're going to tune into all 3 of them, honestly, because you're going to get a lot of information there. There is no better resource than Brian Arnold of Empire right here in Colorado with Empire Financial, empowering the American dream of home ownership. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.